28 miles off Land's End floats the enchanting archipelago, the Isles of Scilly. Wild in its beauty, here life rolls by at its own pace. A far cry from the stresses and strains of life on the mainland.
This variety are a red variety called Rondo, and they make a very nice red wine.
A haven for people like Thelonian Val Thomas and her husband Graham, who returned to St Martin's 25 years ago to plant the first vines at Val's childhood home.
It was an amazing flower farm. Mostly it would have been daffodils. These were all bulb fields, so we, not wanting to sound immodest, we have set up a working vineyard.
St Martin's is the northernmost of the 5 inhabited Scilly Islands, with rugged cliffs to the north and tropical white sandy beaches and turquoise seas to the south. Although the vineyard is surrounded by stunning scenery, the island isn't the most favourable spot for growing grapes, thanks to salty sea winds and harsh winter storms.
We were the first to try it here. You know, it's not the ideal place to have a vineyard, but the priority was to live here.
Against the odds and adverse weather, Val and Graham have built up a successful winery over the years, producing up to 3,000 bottles annually and running tours and tastings.
But it has been a labour of love, but it's had so many interesting consequences. We've even met the Queen on the back of being here, which was very special,
Lovely,
I have to
yeah.
say. She seemed really interested, didn't she?
Yeah.
But now into their 70s, the physical demands of looking after the 2.5-acre vineyard make it a back-breaking business. So 2 years ago, they reluctantly decided to lay down their secateurs and retire. Finding the right people to take on their beloved business proved tricky.
We did ask on the island because accommodation's always an issue. And I think people knew how much hard work it was. and there were no youngsters that were able to take it on.
By chance, a timely yarn with a young couple visiting the vineyard on holiday proved to be just the job.
About a dozen in the tour. Holly and James were part of that. And I just threw away lines, said, well, anyone wants to buy a vineyard, just let me know. And they went away, thought about it, and telephoned us. Emailed us, said, were you serious? So,
I picked the email up, but unfortunately I said
we
yes.
went from there. 8 months ago, Holly Robbins and James Falconbridge set sail from Nottinghamshire and dropped anchor here on St Martin's to learn the ropes from Val and Graham. And they haven't looked back.
It's amazing now the sun's come out.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Such a difference from this morning.
Yeah.
Perfect apple picking weather, I think.
It's a world away from their previous lives, especially for Holly.
I used to spend my entire life travelling on a plane back and forth to Europe, and then spending the entire day sat in front of a computer looking at spreadsheets and presentations. So for me, it couldn't be really further from what I was doing before. The hardest part was leaving behind family and friends, really. They were all super supportive and they all knew that it was the right thing for us to do. Can't imagine going back, can you?
Nope, not unless they make us.
No chance.
It's Holly and James's first fruit harvest since following in the footsteps of previous owners, Val and Graham Thomas.
Are you ready then, Val? We'll race you to the top.
Who have returned to help out and offer the benefit of their experience as the vineyard transitions from old hands to new kids on the block.
This is the final crop to come in this year, and these ones are Orion, so it's kind of like our flagship wine, really.
We had the issue early on in the year where the winds came through at the sort of end of May, early June time, and they've made quite sort of sparse bunches, but the grapes that are there are looking quite a nice size.
The unique weather system on the Isles of Scilly is an issue Val and Graham have become very familiar with over the years.
The biggest enemy is the wind.
Yeah.
You have to work with it.
There are certain varieties we've researched, and Orion, which we're picking now, are fairly resistant. You wouldn't really get away with planting things like Chardonnay.
Their expert knowledge is invaluable to the young couple in their inaugural year of winemaking.
Graham, he's even bequeathed to us his book of secrets, which is where all of the key information is about the blends and all of the measurements of levels and all of the kind of things that they've done in the past. So we're lucky to have it.
And knowing the challenges that lie ahead, Val and Graham are keen to support them.
It is a big challenge for them because it's a poor harvest and not a good start to a new business. But look at where we are. I mean, I think that's the bonus, and it makes it worthwhile. I never get tired of the views here because it's always changing. The colours change, clear air, no pollution.
It's an enchantment shared by Holly and James, as St Martin's already has them well and truly under its spell.
It's one of those lovely things you'd love to have shown your sort of previous self, just a little snapshot forward to what you'll be doing in sort of 2 years' time. And I think if I'd seen the grapes and seen the view and the setting, I'd have been quite surprised by the turn that your life takes, but very pleased. It certainly beats being stuck in front of a computer.
But it'll take some training before they can pick at the pace of the older generation.
Val and Graham are just storming away. I don't think we're ever going to catch them now. Yeah, another 25 years and we might be able to catch them up.
With the grapes safely gathered in, the bounty can be lugged to the winery. And for Val, it's a trip down memory lane.
When we started, this is all we had, this little basket press. So you put the fruit in there, wind it down, and it's quite a nice sight when you see the juice coming through. Now it's mainly used for apples, or small quantities of grapes.
Despite the lure of a leisurely retirement, leaving her childhood home is still a wrench.
I've got mixed feelings of handing over the reins because it's been part of me growing up on a farm. And this was the sort of jewel in the crown, really. But I know that now into my 70s, I'm physically not able to do all the things that you need to do. It's time, it really, yes, if I'm honest.
It may be a year of first fruits for Holly and James, but it's the end of an era for Val and Graham.
I really consider myself very lucky because we've loved every minute of this, so I can't complain, really. And always available should they need it. A wine consultant of the island.
As Graham calls time on the grape harvest for one last year,
For whom the bell tolls.
it's time for Holly and James to go it alone as they start the winemaking process.
We'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye then.
Take care.
But without their trusty native guides, can they pull off a vintage worthy of the Vineyard? With the harvest gathered in, their mentoring by the previous owners, Val and Graham Thomas, has finally come to an end. And now they are in sole charge of the winemaking process.
It's really nice that we're now in a position that we can just be kind of going for it and we know what we're doing, and it's nice to have the knowledge.
Off it goes.
Ready?
Processing the grapes is first on the list, as they need to be destalked and crushed, ready for pressing.
So the stalks shoot out the back end and the grapes and the juice come out this side here. So this is what it looks like when it comes out. The skins have been split, they've been through the rollers, so they're ready to release all the juice now. So it's nice and sticky, this job.
And with 110 kilos of fruit to go through the machine, it's a time-consuming job as they begin to fill the hydropress with the crushed grapes, ready for the next stage.
We've got to be very careful with this because every last grape counts when you're a small vineyard like we are. Each little bit of juice is another contribution to a bottle, so every little helps.
Once the grapes are filled up in here, we'll then inflate this with water and it will just gently force the juice out into the pot, and then we'll put it in the tank. It does take a while, the whole thing. There's no shortcuts, there's no quick way of making wine.
They may only have been on the island for 8 months, but life has a completely new flavour for the couple.
I don't think we ever planned to end up living and working together, but to be honest, I think we get on fairly well. You know, you're all right.
So far, so good.
Yeah, we tolerate each other just about. So far, so good. Yeah.
It's nice because back when we both had our previous jobs.
Yeah.
We'd end up through the summer, you know, we'd see each other at weekends and that would be it. So it's actually really nice just to see you every day, see you properly now. It's good.
As the last of the grapes goes into the press, the first signs are positive.
The very first bit of juice coming out.
Funny old colour, isn't it?
But to really see results, they need to crank up the pressure.
I've got to keep my finger on this little valve at the top here now because we're filling up that balloon inside with water. And then when we start gurgling and the water starts squirting out the sides, that's when the pressure will start to build inside.
And as the press does its work, Holly and James can finally see the fruits of their labour.
Beautiful, raging torrent of grape juice pouring out into the bucket.
Once pressed, the juice goes straight into the fermentation tank.
It's kind of crazy to think that after a year looking after these particular vines, the Orions, and a day of picking from 6 different fields, it's all in one tank.
And as the last drops go in...
There we go.
Job done.
Orion 2020.
Watch this space.
Their first ever winemaking is done, so Holly and James can now chill out and take a little time off to explore more of St Martin's.
It's such a privilege to be able to call this home. I mean, this was never in the plan. We never even visited until a couple of years ago, but it just absolutely gets under your skin, and it's, yeah, I think we pinch ourselves every day. So lucky to be able to call this home.